Welcome, dear participants, to our webinar with this really nice title, Towards a Gentle Revolution. My name is Michaela Glöckler. I'm the current president of the European Alliance of Initiatives for Applied Anthroposophy, and the short version is ELIANT. And I'm glad to welcome my colleague in our alliance, André Schmechel, who is very active in the Waldorf Steiner educational movement. Welcome, André, and I would like you maybe to start in just introducing. I know that you did not grow up in a Waldorf environment, but you fall in love with this sort of education. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, thank you, Michaela, for this introduction. Hello, everyone joining in today. So, what was the reason for me joining into Waldorf education? Despite not growing up as a Waldorf student, was that during my education at university, I got into contact with the Waldorf school, and there I witnessed that children were able to grow up and go to school in the way that me and many of my friends, when we went to school ourselves, would have liked to go to school. So the system I grew up in was not bad for me. So I went through it somehow and everything was fine for me and I felt happy and grew up well. But others didn't so much. And when I first saw a Waldorf school, I noticed something is different there. People are gentler. To me, it appeared they might be friendlier. Students were participating in everyday life. Teachers were really interested in what they were doing. And then I thought I would finish my education at university. And after this, I became a Waldorf teacher.
Yeah, I would like to know, in our invitation letter to this webinar, we wrote that the new way of thinking is, so to say, in Rudolf Steiner's mind, the founder of Waldorf education, a sort of complete shift of paradigm, or better to say, the new way of thinking has a completely different orientation than the actual mainstream way of thinking. And Rudolf Steiner's diagnosis was this, this not nice to hear word when he says the actual mainstream culture is total oriented on selfishness, pursuit of individual happiness, career, that I make the game and so on and so forth. And of course, this is not wrong because we are all, to a certain extent, self-oriented. Yeah. But when we look around, if this selfishness is too strict and has, in the mainstream attitudes and cultures, no balance with altruism, with this complete other orientation, how can I serve my environment? What are the needs of my environment? Then we have, I as well think, the problems of our time, that poverty grows, wars, crimes, addiction, all sorts of social conflict material and conflict makers, so to say, is just increasing. I was born right after the Second World War, and I never ever would have thought that humanity can consider and can, in a certain way, even prepare for a third one. In Europe, again, a war, and not a huge effort to create conditions how to make peace, how to go into the diplomatic encounter and so on. If someone would have said this to me 40 years ago, I would not have believed it. And so I'm very, very engaged to to discuss with you, to reflect with you, what are the conditions in education that people develop, on the one hand, a strong, healthy self-esteem, and on the other hand, a deep love and empathy and orientation. How can I serve my environment who brought me up? How can I give back? How can I balance conflicts? How can I develop peace faculties, peacemaking faculties? Could you just share how you think about that? Because you are still in the daily encounter with your students. How do you do?
Yes, that's right. I'm in the daily encounter with my students. And that's a beautiful thing that we can do at Waldorf schools. We can be a community with all humans together at a school. Because I think to create the preconditions for an ability for peace, as you just asked for, is for young children to see how adults interact, how they build communities, and how they live together. And if a child can witness adults being friendly with each other, trying to solve problems together, coming into small discussions, but solving them together with their goal, with their common goal in mind, not just their own ideas. When children can see this every day, and when this atmosphere is also created in the classroom, and this is how children grow up, they have a true chance to build this idea of peaceful togetherness in themselves. So one of the things that I could have said earlier when you asked me how I came to Waldorf pedagogy was the idea of that when a Waldorf child goes to school, a Waldorf student goes to school, my professor at university, who was not a Waldorf teacher, but he was a Waldorf father, he said the nice thing at Waldorf school is the children are seen by the adults and teachers are interested in the children to be their companion in growing up. And they're not interested in the first place to tell them a lot of academic material. This comes in the second place. It is also important, there's no question, but in the first place, the child must be seen and the teacher must be something like a role model, is what he said. And back then he said something that accompanied me my entire life ever since, which is this nice little saying by Walt Whitman. And he said, the child goes forth each day, and what he sees that day, that he becomes. And later, when I became a Waldorf teacher, I read the same words from Rudolf Steiner, very similar. And he said, it is not so much about what you tell the students to do, it's about what you are, or at least what you try to be. That as an adult, you try to take your own life into your own hands, like being the entrepreneur of your own life, of your biography, and then you participate in designing your biography, which is not on earth by coincidence, which is on earth because of a creation that we are all part of. And you have the right to participate in designing this life, your biography, and with this, the biography of others. And if young children can see this, that many adults are trying to do this, this is what they might want to do themselves in the end. And this is for me the big precondition that we can offer at the Waldorf School to children. Try our best to live out of love and chastity with our colleagues, with parents, with students, and that all of us are one community.
Yeah, thank you, André. But this shows that there is a strong relationship between education and self-education, because not all adults in the environment of children are behaving like wonderful role models for peacemaking. Yeah, so we see a lot of jealousy, of power games, of, you know, aggressive behaviors. And in school, of course, if we are in the situation to become role models, how can we help one another as adults? Or with other words, when you are sit together in the faculty, do you address these questions of self-development? That development is not only an issue for children, and we help them see them, have interest in their developmental steps, not primarily in how good they are, so to say, in school, but how they make it with the requirements. You know, this individual how is much more relevant than any if or what. Yeah, it is how a child can connect with what is to be learned. But we mostly have as adults the attitude, children need to develop and we are adult and support them. But we as adults are still incomplete in our humanization. We have still so much to learn. And I think to become really a role model is an everyday challenge. Or how do you see that? And how do you do this in practice?
That's exactly how I see it, as you just described it. And the nice thing as a Waldorf teacher is that you have a chance to try to work on yourself every day, because the gift is that you are allowed to go to school and meet young children. And the younger they are, the more they say what they actually mean. So at class 1, they say clearly what they think about you. And that is so beautiful that they reflect on what is happening in me by their behavior. And then I can try to do the best out of myself. And the idea is not to be perfect, as you just said. We are all in the middle of development, but to be authentic, not to pretend, well, you are still young, but I'm already adult and I'm already perfect. This we would not say, of course, but we are authentically moving through the day with the children in class, and I can take my class as a mirror of how I feel if I haven't noticed it myself in the morning. If everything goes well, I notice how I feel before I enter the classroom. But sometimes in hectic situations, it takes 3 minutes and then we start our class and then we sing a song, for example, and I notice how the children sing. And when they sing out of tune, or when some students who are a little bit clumsy act out a little bit, they do not act out because they want to act out, but they act out because I am not in a good shape. They do not feel held in class. And then I see, oh, thank you. I can say in myself to this boy or this girl, thank you very much. You showed me what you need. And then I try to focus on myself. And all of a sudden, this child is not all over the place anymore. And this is how it works. And then you asked how we deal with this in faculty. Every Thursday, we've got a faculty meeting at all Waldorf schools worldwide. That's the beautiful Thursday afternoon and evening where we meet with all our colleagues. And there we share these situations. We talk about self-development, how we can work on ourselves so we are able to create a learning and growing environment for the students where they can educate themselves basically on us and in the environments that we create for them. And yeah, then there are new teachers who say, oh, how did you do this last year? And there are other teachers who did this many times before. And then they share what happened in class. And they talk about exactly what I just tried to explain. Often this does not happen in the big faculty then. Sometimes we spread out into groups and then we talk about exactly these things. And then one notices the next day, issues become less and everything grows as a community, not out of oneself without others. And that's an important key.
One of the Steiner quotations on education I find extremely challenging, but also orienting or leading. That is to receive the child with reverence, to accompany it with love, and to let it go in freedom. And I would like to know, when you say we are also as adults incomplete and we always have also to manage a sort of overcoming certain aggressions against difficult children or difficult parents or difficult colleagues, we have the full aggression faculty, tendencies, instincts within us. Every person has that. And to overcome this is challenging. And how do you experience this to accompany a child and a young person, a youngster, with loving interest in its development, even if he or she is causing a lot of trouble and problem? How can you do this? Because from my point of view, if you make war, then you act out your aggression. And when you make peace, you have learned to overcome this aggressive desire and first to see, what can I do for my environment that this sort of evil cannot break through. But this is, I find, extremely challenging. Can you maybe give an example how you do this in the class, how you manage that?
Yes. Yes. So in my own experience in class with these children who try to act out in all kinds of situations, they often just ask to be seen. They're not doing this because they want to be bad. They're doing this because something happens inside of them and they just haven't learned yet how to control their emotions. Even some adults haven't learned how to control their emotions, and I haven't learned to control my emotions, probably like all of us. We are incomplete in this, but maybe a little bit ahead of a very young child. And if the child feels understood and not blamed for what she or he is doing, then it already helps. So what I do is, if it happens while we are in the rhythmical part of the day, or while we are in a clapping game and a child starts to act out, I just move a little bit closer to the child. And when my body comes closer and my thought is with the child while I still keep on singing with the rest of the class, the child usually stops. If it's not possible for the child to stop, with young children, classes 1, 2, 3, 4, I can come close and maybe my hand goes on the shoulder of the child. Or for a moment, I smile towards the child. So this is what I try to do. I try to avoid to say, stop it now, please, because this shows the child I have been trying every day to not act out anymore. And now in the first moment I try, the teacher already says again, stop it. And then, as Steiner says, if I say once something like this to a child, I have to find 3 more positive things within the next few minutes with a young child. And this is very, very true in my own real life experience, this rule of thumb that I just said. So it is very easy to just smile towards the child, and all of a sudden, she stands straight and participates. And later on, during recess, when the children go out into the yard, I could accompany them, and if it seems right, I could talk to the child again if the child seems to want to talk to me about what was happening in the morning. And if not, then that's good. Then we will see what happens the next day. And this works very, very well, I find. The child must feel seen. And I think, well, yeah, if I had the feeling, oh, why is he doing this again? Even thinking this would make the child more nervous. So one must, as a teacher, work on oneself if one is a person who gets upset when other people don't behave in the way one expects them to. One first of all should probably learn that we never expect anything from anyone else. That's the personal freedom of the other person. But if I'm an adult and the other one is a child, I have the right to accompany the child and to help to do it better. And helping doing it better will most likely work well when I look how did people in the past do it. And there you can read whatever you want to read. If you want to read stories about Jesus, or if you want to read all kinds of other things that we have out there from people in the past who did good positive impacts on our cultural development on Earth. We just have to try to do it. Even if we don't believe that it works, we can try it. And for me, it worked out in the end. That if one reacts in a warm way, often even without words, everything will be fine. And the more words, the worse it gets in my experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. I have another question. I would like to know how your experiences are with that. I learned by Rudolf Steiner that for him, it was not only very important to see in what age and in what developmental stage a child is and how to support it. He was also very sensitive what sort of curriculum impact in language, in history, in natural science, in whatever subject, mathematics, and so on, what sort of curriculum item is the most age appropriate to give it in teacher's hands, saying maybe in this age, do this with the children. So for him, the curriculum was a tool to make an age appropriate, good, objective relationship with the child. So the curriculum is not, you have to know this and I will test you, but the curriculum is a tool to talk with the child about most interesting age-appropriate issues. How did you experience that? Was this for you a challenge, or how did you experience that?
When I started teaching, this actually was a challenge. And the interesting part was I found it made a lot of sense what Steiner said and what you just said. And I was convinced that it is good. But when I came into class as a teacher myself in the first year, I thought, well, but I don't do it like this right away, to be honest. And then my mentor, who was very close to me, he said, well, this is just what you do here, or what you try to do. And then I tried to do it. So for me, I understood something, but I could not put it into action for some reason. But then I learned to put it into action. And then I started noticing day after day that it really works for children to find age-appropriate content for the day where they work on. So we chose this annual motif for the year, this Jahresleitmotiv, as we call it, which goes through the entire year, and then we choose for the different subjects or main lesson blocks that we teach material or content that is connected to everyday life. There is something that we really need. So children notice what we do here at school, what I do every day, is a meaningful activity, I would say, in the first place. And secondly, it makes sense what we do because it's not abstract. It is connected to what I want to know and what we do here at school and what our class does and what my parents do and what my village or my city does where I live in. So we must find ways to link it to everything. And there's another key point for me, which is a foundation for kids. If you notice as a young child, you have the chance to participate in designing society because you learn what is happening in society and you link everything you do at school to your everyday life and put meaning to it. You become a creator of the region where you live, even if you're only 7 years old. And you are part of it. You are connected with it. You are not alone, but you are an individual. But you are not alone. You are with many others together. They have the same goal, And you and me and my friends in class are part of it. And this is so beautiful to see in the children. And when I witnessed this, when my mentor was teaching, I thought, yes, it really works. And then I practiced myself, and then we all practice as Waldorf teachers until we retire doing this. And then we see the smiling children with red cheeks. You know this as a pediatrician, Michaela, and they are happy and grow up healthily because they feel connected with the whole.
Last question. One very focused idea or conceptual idea by Rudolf Steiner was, if we want to solve social problems, we need to rethink our educational tools. Social questions are, understood in their depths, pedagogical questions, questions of becoming. But pedagogical questions need a healthy developmental orientation. If we have not a clear picture what is health, we cannot find appropriate educational tools. Education should support health. How do you deal with that? You know, that is really a huge perspective, but I find very, very important, because peace is pure social health.
Yeah. So first, so health and social health is both what you're asking for right now, right? So first, we foster this nice community rhythm at Waldorf School. We have a very clear daily structure. We have a very clear monthly structure. We teach in blocks, which is like we take a subject and carry it through a main lesson in a 4-week block. So every morning we do the same things. We greet the child and shake his or her hand in the morning and say, "Good morning, how are you doing today?" And then I feel the hand, I see the eyes, I see the face, cold, warm hands, and so on. I can ask the child, how are you feeling today? And then the child will answer. Then we go through the day in our rhythm. And after 4 weeks, we finish this with a Monatsfeier or with a school recital to complete this block. And then we show each other in our school community what we have been working on for this block, for example. Then we go in the bigger picture, not only through a rhythm of months, we also go through the annual rhythm. We have school festivities, 4 big school festivities a year and small ones along. That's what fosters, I find, for all of us, our physical and inner psychological and emotional health. And the social health can grow if you are healthy, and you can remain being healthy if the social environment is healthy as well. Yes. And this I found, particularly at Waldorf schools, is healthy because it's a self-government environment. There's no hierarchy and directorial leadership where someone says, this is what you must do, and on Monday morning next week, I will tell you what you have to do as a teacher. So as a teacher, you take your work into your own responsibility with all other faculty, and you govern the school, you lead the school together with all other teachers in a self-governmental system, and you take responsibility and you hold yourself accountable for what you do, and others do the same with themselves, but not with me, because they trust in he will have done all he could, even if something works out badly. We trust in each other, we try our best, and we work in a self-governmental setting where we all run the school without a school principal, and where leadership becomes a common undertaking. That's our interest, to have this school as our, I would say in hyphens, business. And children can witness this, and parents participate in doing this. And this makes the social environment so healthy. This is what I can say in short. We could elaborate on this, of course, but
Yeah, and our time is now already
Yeah.
closing, but thank you so much, André, for all this input. And for all those of our participants who would like to read more, I can recommend this book, Education for the Future, where you find what we talked about a bit enlarged, because all what André shared cannot be brought into 30 minutes. So thank you very much, André. Thank you all for participating, for listening, and goodbye, maybe to another webinar. And let us all be promoters of this silent, peaceful little revolution we need towards peace and health. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.